All right, y'all, welcome back. We're gonna look at Why Don't You Dance now, and this is the first story in Carver's second collection, his middle collection, my favorite of his collections. And just if you happen to peruse through it, you'll see that certainly those are the most spare stories by a long shot. A lot of shorter pieces in Will You Please Be Quiet, Please, but just the language in what we talk about when we talk about love is so efficient and minimal, to the aid of character and to the aid of the sort of overall theme, which is these characters sort of trapped in many of these stories are characters sort of trapped in this sort of aftermath, and realizing just how alone they are. Something that could be said for the last group of stories we looked at, and if you look at the stories, some of the other stories in that collection, the first collection, oftentimes people still have, they're with partners, or for the most part they are. In the case of what we talk when we talk about love, not necessarily the case. Anyway, so the reason I pair these two together, first of all, I think it's important to note that this is the first story in the collection. So in many ways, it's a guide to reading the rest of the stories. I haven't sneezed in 2 hours, and I get back on here and I have to sneeze, so that's coming at some point. But also, just because of how similar some of the plot stuff is, or some of the overlap between what is this, what is it, and Why Don't You Dance? So let's look at that opening sentence in Why Don't You Dance. In the kitchen, he poured another drink and looked at the bedroom suite in his front yard. Before we get to this sort of amazing image of this entire house being refurbished in his yard and exposed, which we'll get to too. I'm sure some of you have noticed some of the connections there, maybe even with Revolutionary Road. The first sentence in the collection, in this story and of the collection itself, is in the kitchen he poured another drink. Another is a word that signifies this has been going on a while. It lets us know we are getting there late to the game. We have entered 5 minutes late, so to speak, and it's just a good way to let us know we're in the aftermath. We are beyond things. We are in the aftermath of something that we don't really get the specifics of. We just see sort of his reaction to it, and we have to kind of ascertain meaning from that. He looks out. Everything's the same as it would be in the bedroom. His side, her side, suggesting there was a her at some point. We're not going to find out for sure what happens. Don't expect to, especially in these middle stories. He considered this as he sipped the whiskey. And then we just get this long description of all these items of furniture that are out in the yard. It's important to note too that they're plugged in as well. It's a startling image. It's an image almost for a poem, really. And this is really the poet in Carver coming out, where it's just something to sort of behold, and we can kind of infer what we want to. But this is a story. During the extension cord out, things were no different from when they were inside the house. Now then, a car slowed and people stared, but no one stopped. It occurred to him that he wouldn't either. And that's it. That's all we get. We don't get why he did it. We don't get what he's thinking of. But now compare this to What Is It? And you get that idea that I think there was a line in, or not a line, What Is It? You have the neighbor, and this sort of fear that the neighbor has sort of seen into his soul. There's a sense of wanting to lock the doors and hide yourself. Here, in the aftermath, the character doesn't care anymore. It's all out in the open. So really, we see it's a sad story. It's a tragic story, but there's a freedom that comes with this, and you'll see that it's a sort of a horrible type of freedom, in a way. But think about all that the Wheelers tried to hide and sort of keep inside, even as that sort of picture window revealed. Here, he just lays it all out on the lawn. Now, we get this nice counterpoint and contrast with this young couple. We see the man, and he is sort of one half of an older couple that we can assume things have gone wrong. Now we get this sort of the young couple. And it could even be the same girl and guy from Fat. Really, it could be Rudy and the narrator before Fat. Must be a yard sale, the girl said to the boy. The girl and the boy were furnishing a little apartment. So they are at the beginning of things, and that's a contrast to someone who is in the aftermath. See what they want for the bed and for the TV. Boy pulls into the driveway. They got out of the car, began to examine things. There's some similarities to neighbors here, but in this case, all the stuff is out there for them to look at. Boy sat on the sofa to watch. He lit a cigarette. The girl sat on the bed, took off her shoes, lay back. Come here, try this bed. Bring one of those pillows. How is it? Try it. He looked around the house. House was dark. I feel funny. Better see if anybody's home. So he's a little suspicious of doing this. Try it first. He lay down on the bed, put the pillow under his head. How's it feel? It feels firm, he said. Kiss me, she said. Let's get up, he said. Kiss me, she said. She closed her eyes. She held him. He said, I'll see if anybody's home. But he just sat up and stayed where he was, making believe he was watching the TV. No, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff to dig into here. But as she's asking for connection and physical connection and sort of love, he is skeptical of it because he's afraid people are watching, and then ends up just looking at the TV, sort of assuming these roles. And you can almost see Rudy sitting there on the couch watching TV. Lights came on in houses up and down the street. This lets us know it's getting dark outside without telling us it's getting dark outside. Wouldn't it be funny if, the girl said and grinned and didn't finish. Again, a lot of things here. First of all, this sets her up being unable to tell the story later on, which is something she's trying to do. We find out later on that this girl is like the narrator in Fat, and she's trying to figure out this situation by telling a story about it because it's infused her. Here, it also reminds us of Neighbors. Wouldn't it be funny if they never came back? That sort of idea. She can't even get her thoughts completely out, but she's just, she doesn't know. She doesn't know what to think about this strange moment they're having. Boy laughed, but for no good reason. For no good reason, he switched the reading lamp on. The girl brushed away a mosquito, or if it's Louisiana, 500. I'll see if anybody's home. I don't think anybody's home, but if anybody is, I'll see what things are going for. Whatever they ask for $10 less. It's always a good idea. She said, besides, they must be desperate or something. It's pretty good TV. Ask them how much. Now we're going to see the two things come together, two parts come together. The young kids at the beginning of things, and the man seemingly at the end of things. He comes down the sidewalk, sack from the market. He had sandwiches, beer, whiskey. Quite a shopping list. Saw the car in the driveway, the girl in the bed. Saw the TV going, the boy next to the porch. Just what an image. He gets home to this. Hello, you found the bed. That's good. Hello, the girl said. It's a pretty good bed. It's a good bed. Man said, put down the sack, took out the beer and whiskey. We thought nobody was here. We're interested in the bed, maybe the TV, maybe the desk. How much do you want for the bed? I was thinking $50 for the bed, the man said. Would you take 40? I'll take 40, the man said. He took out the glass, took a glass out of the carton, took the newspaper out of the glass, broke the seal on the whiskey. So he's just going to start drinking. How about the TV? 25. Would you take 15? 15's okay. So he's very easy to get rid of this stuff. Girl looked at the boy. You kids want to drink. You kids, you'll want to drink, the man said. Glasses in that box. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit down on that sofa. That line itself can be read in multiple ways. There's, I'm sure you've heard of the iceberg theory of literature, where, it's the Hemingway idea that, in a story, maybe you just see the top of the iceberg, but buried under the story and sort of hinted at in the subtext is the whole of the iceberg, this giant chunk underneath, and we never see it. And this language is very, very pregnant with things like that. But just this line itself, you kids, you'll want a drink, is basically saying you want to have a drink right now with me. But also he could be saying, looking into their future, eventually you guys are going to start drinking. Bad times might be on the horizon. Bad times have found me. He said, the boy found 2 glasses, poured whiskey, that's enough. She wants water in hers. Man tells her where a spigot is. So what do you want? The boy took out his checkbook, held it to his lips as if thinking. I want the desk. How much money is a desk? The man waved his hand at this preposterous question. Name a figure. He's just ready to give it all away. He looked at them as they sit at the table in the lamplight. There was something about their faces. It was nice or it was nasty. There was no telling. Nice bit of just ambivalence, ambiguity there about them, and we're not going to know. No, we're not going to find out for sure. All right, hold on.